Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, college football fans from across the country and around the world. This is Tim May with the Tim May Podcast, and as it goes, this is a continuing conversation about college football in general and Ohio State football specifically. And with that in mind, I've got a special guest today. His name is Anthony Schlegel. Was my hero long before he ever came to Ohio State because he played at the Air Force Academy for a while. He was going to fly jets. He was going to get jets.
No, they wouldn't let me fly. I was going to be a combat controller.
I'm glad you left because why else would you go to the Air Force Academy if you don't get to fly F-15s at your point in life? But we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about some other things later on in the show, including as we recorded, this is a special date in boxing history and in my history too, because I was privileged to get to go cover the Buster Douglas upset of Mike Tyson in Tokyo 30 years ago, February 10th in Columbus.
That's awesome. That's cool.
February 11th it was in Tokyo. It was a strange time to be alive,
for sure.
but I'll just tell you a few anecdotes about that experience. But back to you, Anthony. The reason I wanted you on my podcast, on my show as we call it, is because you were working with Mickey Marotti and the strength and conditioning staff here at Ohio State for quite a few years before you've kind of branched out into your own private business, and we're going to get to that in just a minute. That hurt, by the way. But I want people to have an understanding of what these guys are going through when we talk about off-season winter conditioning program. What's at the heart of it in your mind? I mean, what is the main thing you want to get accomplished in 2 months?
Well, it's actually longer than that, right? So it starts in January whenever the season's over. You got to give some.
But I just meant this January, February period.
Yeah, well, we're going to go January, February, March to spring ball. We're going to go up to spring ball. So here's the entire point of it. It's setting the standard, right? The cool thing about strength conditioning is that it's a new team every year. And then so you got the guys that are leaving. Great. Who do we got coming back? Then you go down and you're the head strength coach at The Ohio State University, Mickey Marotti. You're going to sit down individually with every single athlete. They've already sat down with all of their position coaches, and so now you got a grasp of what do they need to work on, whether it's to see the field, whether it's to take the next step in being a dude, right, here at Ohio State, and then you take that and say, okay, what can I do from a performance side, because the ultimate job of a strength coach is to maximize their genetic potential and keep them safe, and some guys have genetic ceilings that are higher than the others, but like if somebody's genetic ceiling is here and my genetic ceiling's here, I got to maximize that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And if I can get this guy all the way up, or this is his ceiling and he's only here and I'm here and I'm above him because I'm maximizing me, then I'm going to go win that job, right?
And translated, genetic ceiling means how big, how fast, how strong can you actually get without popping, right?
Well, I mean, listen, God made me who I am, right? I'm like a 6'1" linebacker, you know what I mean? And but he gave me other things, right? Besides like speed and stuff, like I was able to see. I had great vision. I had anticipation. I knew the game of football, but like everybody's a little bit different. And so that's the beauty of the weight room. So it's what do they have to do to maximize them? Then you go through and say, hey, where are you as a competitor? Right? People are like, what does that matter? Listen, man, you teach competitive excellence in the weight room. That's what people are like, oh, it's about reps and sets and weights. That's crap. Like that ain't that's an average coach, right? Average coaches have quotes. Good coaches have a plan. Great coaches have a system. And in a great system, you're teaching toughness and competitive excellence. Yeah. Like that is January to March, right? Yeah. Like that is what it's all about. And matter of fact, this Friday, they're going to have a St. Valentine's Day celebration, right? Yeah. Air quotes.
You have to change the names of some of these things to be politically correct.
Absolutely.
These days, right?
Crap on that, man. I'm just me.
I know.
You know?
But the bottom line is, I mean, like you're just talking about, every player, you want in a team, you want everybody rowing the boat the same direction.
Bump that. We don't row the boat. Listen,
no.
I understand that's Minnesota term.
What I'm getting to here is, though, but every player is at a different level in his development. I mean, from freshmen, there are freshmen out here who are working out, who just showed up here a month ago. Yep. And then you've got fifth-year guys, maybe some sixth-year guys, Justin Hilliard. Coop, Jonathan Cooper. But you've got guys who have been here for a while who are at a different level from a development standpoint. How do you keep that in mind during these 3 months?
Yeah, that's a great point. Great question, because everybody's different. So that's why it's critical for the strength coaches that are working with those guys. That's the art of coaching. It's the art of leadership, right? Everybody's a little bit different. Yeah, and so here's the one thing. The standard of excellence at Ohio State weight room, strength conditioning, it's accountability, it's attitude, competitive excellence, effort, and toughness. Those are the 5 things. Of those, attitude and effort are the number 1, right? If you come in the door, you have a crappy juice, like GTFO. Like you walk in the door bringing juice because energy leads to enthusiasm, leads to effort, leads to results. So that's the number 1 thing. And then being tough, right? That's mental, physical, and emotional toughness. So we give them events to respond to. Then you take that and that accountability, and why this is so important to each individual guy, and you kind of said it before at the beginning of your question, is we're teaching the fundamentals of the game, right? So loaded stances, shin angle, not taking a false step. That is every time we do a dynamic warm-up.
Yeah.
What?
Don't waste the opportunity.
Why does that matter?
Yeah.
Well, guess what? If you start working on loaded stances in August, you're 8 months behind us.
Yeah.
Right? And matter of fact, when we won the national championship, Coach Myers said we were elite at 2 things. We were elite at loaded stances and the difference, which was our striking drill. Fundamentals of the game that we worked on all year long. Like, that's why it's really important. Then you get down to the individual guys. Like Ryan Shazier, he came in at a $197, scoliosis, no hair on his body, right?
Yeah.
That's because of the disease thing.
Yeah.
Right? Then you got a guy like John
Alopecia.
Simon, right? And then so how does that work? And Johnny's in there right now, just got done playing for the New England Patriots. He's working out. Well, this is what the art of coaching does. Say, hey, John, you're in here every morning. You get in at 5:15 a.m. You know what? We need you to start bringing dudes with you. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to tell you who to bring. I want you to go pick out dudes that you know are going to move the needle for our team. Go start bringing them. All of a sudden, it went to Ryan Shazier, and then Ryan needed to gain weight. So now John, out of his own pocket, was buying Ryan, sausage muffin with eggs. Like, here's 4 of them. Pound these as we go to the facility. Next thing you know, there was Johnny's group. Yeah. So in the realm of like strength and conditioning in the weight room, Johnny had his own group, and he dictated the pace and the attitude and the effort because they were all watching him, trying to be like him. Like, that's what goes on in this now. Like, you look at Ohio State. Justin Fields has, last year I said in this time is when he gained the respect and confidence of people seeing him and how he competed in mat drills and agility work. Now it's his opportunity to say, okay, I did that last year, but now I'm going to go lead those, right? And I'm going to take that next step as a leader. Then I'm going to bring other guys with me. Like, that's the beauty of what we do and knowing your people. But that comes from relationship, and that comes from trust.
Yeah, that's interesting because as we talk here right now, Justin Fields has got a bunch of the receivers out in the middle of the field, and they're throwing the ball in the middle of the day on a Monday in the early February. That's the thing, the continuum I'm talking about college football. It really never stops anymore. You remember when you were coming up, Highland Park High School in Texas and stuff. Was it an all year affair way back when? Because that was when. What were those years?
Late 90s.
Late
90s. So here's the deal. Like, I mean, it's all changed, right? Recruiting, like they had 1-day camps that you would go to, and I was a wrestler and I played football. It's like, we didn't have those showcases and stuff like they do now. And you're always working on it, but I went from football to wrestling, and then I got done, and then I hit the national circuit because I was a national champion wrestler. And then I came back in, and I did some track stuff, and but you're not really going 7-on-7 until we hit that time, and then 7-on-7 really started and exploded in Texas.
Yes.
That was like my senior year is when that blew up.
Right.
They didn't have a state championship, but you would go to a college, and they would have high school teams, and you would go compete there, or you would compete in different districts around the Dallas-Fort Worth area. That was like the first year. That was like 99.
Yeah.
So it's completely changed the dynamic. However, the thought process of perfecting your craft is something that never changes. And I think that people like, college football, they're working on it, NFL football, they're working on it all year. Guess what? If you're in a business or you're an employee or you're a teacher, you're doing something and you don't work on your craft all year, you're doing a disservice to all the people that you serve. So poof, David Copperfield, like, respect what these guys do, right? But guess what? Go out there and be a better you.
Right.
Bam.
Right. Bottom line is, I mean, I keep reminding people where I grew up in Texas. I grew up in Alabama and in Texas 11 years and moved up here in 1976. But, Lufkin High School had an indoor facility about 20 years ago.
Oh, dude,
I mean, we're talking about.
It's a different game.
Hey, I want to get to this, though. In the years you were here, name me a couple of guys that you really saw just make huge improvements during this time of the year that got them on the board, if you follow my drift, meaning they were, who is this guy to this guy's got to play. You know what I mean? I mean, just give me a couple of guys that you can use as examples who made tremendous strides in the offseason.
Man, I tell you, that's a long time ago.
Yeah.
I think a guy like, here you go, Taylor Decker.
Yeah.
Joshua Perry. I'm just talking more recent guys. Of
Yes,
when I was
that's what I want to
coaching.
talk about. Yeah.
Really, I mean, again, Joshua Perry came in bench press at 225 this many times. You know what I'm saying? Taylor Decker, he knows it, right? Soft when he came in here. Like, this is where you develop that, right? This is where you get that. And drop the rope. Like, don't let go of the rope. And we're doing that. And you're just building that toughness. And then all of a sudden, but Taylor embraced that, right? Like, he knows, hey, this is making me better. I trust my coaches. I trust my teammates. I want to go get that. They need me. All those things that go into it of how you're inspiring an athlete to go be better for his teammates, right? To be a servant. Like, those are all the things that you're working on in January through March. And so I think like Taylor, I think like a guy like Nick Vanette, I think of a guy, Joshua Perry. Those are really where you get a lot of gains. Then guys like Ryan, those type of guys like Ryan, this is the time where they get to put on some mass.
Yeah.
Right? Like this is, okay, you just got done through a season. And again, I went through that, played at the Air Force Academy. My last game as a freshman, I weighed in at 205. You know, I'm in there getting all sorts of demerits because I'm hiding chocolate milk and like eggs in a Coleman cooler, like, you know, Shawshank Redemption, the Shawshank deal, like cut out books and there's a cooler, you know, like, but that's it. Now's the time to like, hey, let's get big, let's get strong, let's apply power to the ground, and then let's get tough. So that's kind of the beauty of this month. It's not necessarily we got to be in super awesome football shape right now. We can put some iron on there and get
Hey, talk to me about that real quick, though. You were at the Air Force Academy where lean and mean is kind of the approach. You know, I mean, I'm talking about for the whole student body. Yet you've got to have coaches sitting there screaming at you. You got to get bigger and faster. You know, I mean, that had to be an interesting.
It was an interesting dynamic.
Challenge.
Yeah, the challenge was not necessarily from our coaches. It was from the other cadets. Like, it's like, listen, you're up here, you go play intramurals. No disrespect for intramurals, but a lot of disrespect to them. Like, it's not college football.
Right.
So, you know what? GTFO, like, I'm going to go get big and do what I got to do to go play on Saturdays and represent you. And I had a conflict with that because I'm out here representing you and you're not letting me do the job which I'm doing.
Yes.
Like, I'm going to go serve the military and do that as soon as I graduate. But, like, right now, accomplishing the mission is me going knocking somebody's junk off.
Right.
Period.
Right.
So I need to go lift some weights and drink some chocolate milk if I'm going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And so
either there or you're going to be flying cargo planes. Go ahead now.
No, that's it. I mean, so then you take that and like they just got a brand new weight room. I mean, they're dropping so much money. And again, the academy did great. They got ranked in the top 25 at the end of the year. Yeah. They just got a brand new weight room in by Swornex. Like, they're investing in their guys because they see it. And matter of fact, here's the biggest difference. There's been just talking military. There's been a cultural shift in the military about having a tactical athlete in that mindset. Like, you're seeing that the Army just changed their combat fitness tests. The new Army combat fitness test, the AFCT. They added a deadlift. They added knee tucks and a sled drag carry, and it used to be just push up, sit up, 2 mile run. Now it's completely different because they want a total, soldier, not just somebody that can just go run 2 miles and do a bunch of push ups and sit ups. Like, I got to be able to do some things if it's bringing somebody over a wall or carrying, rounds for a tank. Like, it's the total, complete tactical soldier is what they're going after. That mindset has shifted and has allowed the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force Academy to really invest in their student athletes.
That is interesting because, it used to be, you wanted the football coaches preached the military aspect, the military mindset of all for one for all, and, foxhole and all kinds of stuff.
That's all this too.
And I know. And now it's bleeding over the other way. It's like, because like you said, you don't want just get a guy that can run 2 miles. You want a guy who's can carry your buddy out, blah, blah, blah.
Well, and you had Siri training, you had recognition. We had different things that did that. But at the end of the day, the beauty of, like, and again, I talk about college football because that's what I was in, is the fact that you're with these guys for 4 years and they develop and you're bringing them along. Like, we talk about it all the time, the 10-80-10 rule of Urban Meyer. And like, it was, here's your top 10, here's your middle 80, here's your bottom 10, low GSF, disinterested, you got to go. But the whole thing is, how am I developing this bottom 80 into the top 10 and the top 80 or the bottom 80 and the top 80 and the middle, the top 80 into the top 10. And that's when I really started getting a team. The only way you can do that, coaches can't do it. There's only, 10 position coaches and 5 guys in the weight room. Like, we can't do it. The kids have to take ownership. They have to buy into that. And so that's where we come in through trust and say, listen, you need to go help your buddy out. You need to bring this guy along and work on technique and fundamentals. And that comes with competitive excellence. By us training competitive excellence, they ain't afraid of losing their job. If you're not afraid of losing your job, you have confidence. You want the entire team to be better, because what happens if something happens to me? I want the next guy to roll in, so why won't I give him that information and lessons that I've learned? Unless I'm afraid, right? And you're only afraid because you haven't put the work into it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Like when you're confident, like, listen, I'm going to share everything.
Let me ask you, this is the interesting thing that intrigues a lot of people out there, Ohio State fans. What is the genius of Mickey Marotti, if in fact there is genius there?
Oh, hell yeah, there's genius
obviously
there.
there's hard work, but what would you define as the genius of Mickey Marotti and his approach?
I think Mick is, one, he's a tough Western PA, old school, fullback, strength coach that grinded his way. And again, this is one of the things that I love about him, because I grew up at Metroflex Gym in Arlington, Texas. Branch Warren, Johnny Jackson, 8-time Mr. Olympia, Ronnie Coleman. Like, that's my environment, right? Like, that's how I talk. That's how I train. That's how I do business, okay? All gas, no brakes, attitude and effort. Anyways.
Oval racing, ladies and gentlemen. Go ahead.
Yeah, Mick is that. And then through that process, you see how good he is with the relationship with guys. Then, most importantly, his relationship and being able to communicate with Coach Meyer about what the team needs. So here's the disconnect at everybody else that's average in college football. There is a huge gap between the head ball coach and the head strength conditioning coach. When they're on the same page, speaking the same language, there's only one language of Ohio State football, and it permeates the entire culture from January to December 31st. Poof, David Copperfield. Like, if you want your business to do well, have one language. You want to come in, I'm a strength coach. Hey, here's what I like. Guess what? When you become a head strength coach, you can bring that to the table.
Yeah.
But when you're here, this is what we do. He is the chief operating officer of The Ohio State University, LLC, when Ryan Day is the CEO of it, right? So you have that. Now you're building guys the entire time. And when they're good and when they're bad, like, you have that rapport with them to where if a guy is struggling and I'm constantly on him, that one day he comes in and I know he's down and defeated, the art of coaching, I'm going to say, you know what? Hey, get your knees up. And, like, completely change my tone and my demeanor. Yeah. But, like, on that day, that kid's going to remember that. Then I bring him into my office and I have a conversation with him, because I'm here to maximize the student athlete. I am serving them. That man understands that. His entire staff is that way. And now you've seen, like at Ohio State, Brady Collins goes off. And, there's head strength coaches from Mick's tree all over the place. But it's the relationship with the head duck and Mick that oversees everything. And he runs the training room. He runs the nutrition. He oversees all of it.
Yeah.
And that's critical, because guess what? College athletes, just like your 7-year-old or your 13-year-old, they'll take what you give them.
Yeah.
And guess what? Every area of this building, nobody can take anything, because it's all the same.
Yeah, and the creativity he has, because like I was talking about a while ago, circling back, you've got first-year guys who've been on this campus for a month, and you've got like these 5th and 6th-year guys who have been here for a long time. You can't be the same old from one year to the next. From a workout routine and things like that. certain things. No. I know there are certain things you have to hit, but what has gotten me is how he is being creative and kind of getting the same,
result?
the same results done, and then on top of that, adding on top of that.
So here's the thing. Coach Mick uses a hammer strength row machine, because he knows that on a hammer strength row machine, if a dude's doing 4 plates the right way, that's a strong dude.
Yeah.
So he has the system.
He has the benchmark.
Right? So at the end of the day, I'm telling you right now, it's not about sets and reps. It's about everything else that goes in there. It's about coaching the partner to be engaged and spot his teammate the right way. The weight room protocol, there's tweaks. All right, you refine it.
Yeah.
You adjust it to maybe a little bit of your team or a guy individually, right? You grow with the times. You bring in relationships with the Air Force Research Lab. When I was here that I helped do because I was getting an MBA, I was like, these guys were legit.
Yeah.
You bring in new information that will allow you to be elite. And you embrace that, and then you apply it that fits into your system. You just don't do it to do it because you're trying to stay up with the Joneses.
Right.
You do it because you own it.
A purpose.
Yeah, it's very intentional, it's very purposeful, and it all goes back to serving the student athlete. So with that being said, like, that's kind of part of that genius. He knows what he's willing to bring in and then how it's going to fit, and he's going to vet it through himself and his staff before it's something that's actually like an all gas, no brakes. There's going to be a certain amount of guys that he does that with, but then all of a sudden, boom, it'll be team wide. Yeah. And like, that's the standard. And that's what he does really, really well.
The greatest thing, I think the greatest thing about genius, as I call it, is accepting the idea that you don't know everything and be willing to embrace a new concept, a new idea, just like those, like you're talking about, the
Zephyrs.
Yeah. The
Zephyr, Omega Wave, Polar, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Like all that goes back, and there's so many different things that people don't know about. It's like you have sympathetic, low sympathetic, parasympathetic. How you treat a guy based on his central nervous system is different per player.
Yeah.
And matter of fact, you're like, well, what do these guys have to be stressed out about? You break up with a girlfriend, you got a test that's jacked up, you got family problems at home. All those are stressors that go into why that guy's not meeting his working max percentage on that day. But me as a coach have to understand that and then go back and look at what he's doing and say, okay, here's how we reset this kid.
Yeah.
Bam. So like that is part of the system that people don't understand. And you have to be able to, you as the head strength coach have to be able to fully understand that, have it divvied out to your strength staff to be able to then go execute, because you can't do all those things yourself.
We're standing here. We've got a machine, a part of a machine between you and
me.
It
is, man.
This is
man.
Your invention, your innovation.
Yeah.
Tell people about this. I mean, you're selling this basically
right here.
all around the country.
Yeah,
what do you call this machine?
All right, so this is called the Difference, the Ultimate Striking Machine. It's not rocket science, right? So this is the thing that we did at Ohio State. We won the national championship. It's basically, you're there, I'm here, quick whistle, hands on thigh boards, elbows in, thumbs up, just working on hand striking, right? We did that before every single practice.
Yeah.
The difference drill.
Yeah.
And then it kind of went to, okay, Coach Meyer wanted to work on this in the offseason. It's like, okay, how are we going to do it? Chris Ash and I are talking. Well, we cut 45 2x6s, and you would hold one. I'd hit you 5 times. You hit to me. You hit me 5 times. And then if you look, we're in the indoor. Their weight room is across the field. There's little holes in here where they used to have in-ground sleds.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, this is stupid. One, NCAA, I couldn't work on striking with our guys on the field using football products because it's an NCAA violation.
Right.
So I said, bump that. I'm going to take it and put it in the weight room. And the whole premise is I wanted to eliminate the partner, because if you coach out there, partners suck. They're all leaning this way, or they're not doing it right.
They're protecting themselves.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So I don't want that. Eliminate the partner. Take it to where the customer is in the weight room. There's physiological benefits, but let the whole premise is theory of marginal gains. How do I get a dude 5,000 reps of striking, elbows in, thumbs up all year, period? Like, that's it. Like, number one premise of why I did it. And what sold me on it, and again, this started with a dip bar, 2 pieces of angle iron, a 70-pound Toro lawnmower spring, a 2-inch square tube, and a 2x6 wrapped in carpet. I stuck it on a weight rack, and I'm sitting there because I had the kind of the low, GSF kind of, hey, I'm overweight, I need to be a dude type guys. And then I'm in my office, and all of a sudden Pat Elfline leaves Coach Mick's rack, because that Coach Mick coaches the dudes.
Yeah.
And he went down there, and he was transitioning from guard to center, and he got 20 air snaps right and left. So snap and strike, 20 to right, 20 left, got a protein shake, and left the building. I'm just like, that's the why.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's it.
Yeah.
The dude just got 40 reps of his craft in the weight room and left. It took him all of maybe five minutes.
Yeah.
But he just got better. There's nothing out there that could do that. And so, it's one of those deals in college football. Do you want to chase a dragon? I'm from Dallas, Texas. I played at Ohio State. I know it here. I got an MBA from the Fisher College of Business. I'm like, Steph, I'm convicted about it. Let's ride. And then my wife's like, okay, no benefits, no paycheck, and a machine that nobody has that's completely stupid. Okay.
Yeah. But let's get into it. I mean, this is what's interesting to me is the blocking sled used to be the be-all and end-all way back when. But, ever since hands have been illegally allowed
you have
to be part
because
of the
concussion game, right?
Exactly. But since they've been allowed, I mean, this is like one of the great innovations out there because it is all about the first strike, you know,
absolutely,
so to
man.
speak.
Elbows in, thumbs up guy plus it's like there's so many different things. The sleds are so freaking big.
Yeah.
Listen, wide receivers and DBs ain't hitting a sled, folks.
Yeah.
I'm like, so you got to get them things that they can hit. Like my 7-year-old can hit this product because it has a green spring, a white, a gray, and a black, all for different purposes, right? You can throw med balls at this thing.
Yeah.
I do lacrosse. I was teaching lacrosse how to deliver a blow, speed to power on this with the lightest spring on because that's their game. First off, multiple sport, both genders, like everybody can use it, but in our game in particular, 21 of 22 people use their hands on every single play.
Yeah.
So why not get those reps? And a sled, like you got to bring our sleds, like we have one down there for the D line that they use, but everyone else is outside. And you're in the north and it's cold. how am I going to work on my steps? And if you watch little kids out there, they step, but their hands don't move. So I want to work on hands and feet, just like we talk about in a ladder. Well, I can do that right there on a weight rack all winter.
Yeah.
Well, you ain't going outside in Columbus, Ohio, or Michigan, or wherever, but you can do it right there in your weight room. And that was kind of the why. It's just, and then you look at, I'm sorry, I'm kind of going in, but then I got out of the bubble of Ohio State strength and conditioning, and then I saw how we warm up for practices. This is probably similar to high schools. You do a band stretch, glute activation, hurdles, dynamic warm-up. First period of all practices, think about this, is either punt or hand striking, both of which use their hands, and no one has warmed up their upper body. Yeah. So now it's like, listen, why wouldn't you strike this 20, 25 times before practice? Now their central nervous system and upper body is activated. Guess what? They're more likely going to be able to have a better strike, and it's safer because their elbows are in, thumbs are up, as opposed to going really, really wide. So now it's not just an off-season product. It's an all-year product, full utility. Every sport can utilize it. So it's fun. That's what we do.
I know, and I look at it, this is like, I would call this like in boxing, this would be the speed bag. I mean, you got the heavy bag, which would be more like the sled, you know, the way I looked at it, but this is more like the speed bag you hit that just teaches you basically a little more precise, what do you want to call it, strike, but also bringing your strength to the point of attack, etc.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the cool thing too is like this is the gray, like that's the gray spring. So the black and the gray, like you can come out of a stance on it like a sled. Now it doesn't move, right? But like to get that initial shock, and then it's building up your forearms and your wrists and your thumbs, like all the things that we go into. Man, I get to camp and my elbows and my forearms and my wrists are sore. Like you eliminate it because dude's been striking all year.
Yeah,
like that's the funnest thing for me is when I'm talking to coaches. I just want to add value to you. And I know how this works. It's like this is something that even if a kid's a third stringer practice squad guy, he can get better on his strike, which gives you a better look, and potentially he can work his way up and he has more confidence. Ed Warner had one of my original ones for his son, Edward, who's playing at Michigan State, and he stuck it on his Gorilla. And every time he drove home or got into his car or got out of his car, he would strike it off his Gorilla 20 times.
Wow.
And then his first day of pads, he sent me a clip. He's like, thanks. And it was him coming down on a guard, striking, shedding, and making a tackle. And I'm like, bam. That's the beauty of it, you know?
Yeah.
That's what it is. Just making dudes better.
Yeah.
But it's the same philosophy that I learned from Mickey Marotti.
Hey, stick around. I want to ask you one more thing. We're going to be back in just a moment after this word from one of our sponsors, and I'm going to keep Anthony Schlegel here for one more segment because I wanted to ask him about a guy he knows pretty well who made a big decision in his coaching career over the weekend.
Yeah, let's do it.
We'll be right back. Yeah, we're back, ladies and gentlemen. And Anthony, I wanted to ask you, Luke Fickell.
Yeah, my guy.
Was courted heavily by Michigan State over the weekend. That's at least middle of the Big Ten East sort of job. One of the great, maybe the best division in college football, right there with the SEC West. But he opted, as we talk now, to stay at Cincinnati. What's going on there in your mind? I mean, what is it about Luke Fickell maybe turning down that job, but also the loyalty he's showing to the University of Cincinnati that gave him his first real shot as a head coach?
So I think it's one, Fick knows himself. Bam, here's a word for you, self-introspection. All right, go do that sometime, everybody that's out there that's listening and watching. But you sit down, you talk to your wife, where are the kids, how are the kids? Here's what we could do with this program. Then you start breaking down the program, and let's look at it. The dude's gone 11-2 past 2 years, right?
Yes.
Didn't win the AAC, was second, right? Teams are playing well. Everybody's coming back.
Yes.
Right? You got a great strength coach at Brady Collins. You got a great culture going on down there. Another opportunity to go, win 11 or 12 or go 13-0. Awesome, right? Then you take that, all that good, and I'm making 2.5. Okay, cool. But then I'm looking at Michigan State, and you got their recruits. How's it going to fit what I want to bring in and do offensively, right? Where are they defensively? What does their strength staff look like? Who's on their staff? Hey, if I leave, who's going to be the head coach here? I would say probably Marcus Freeman, right? Well, then who on my staff is going to stay with Marcus, and who's going to go with me to Michigan State? All right. Do we want to live in East Lansing? Do we want to uproot our entire family, of which the dude has 6 kids, multiple sets of twins, okay? A lot of people you got to move, right? And go up there.
That's a big truck.
And do that, for what? Like, yeah, maybe double my salary over the year, and we get a 5-year guarantee. And yeah, that's a lot. But like, Fick is so grounded and knows himself so well, and trusts his wife, completely on where they are, as a family. Like, that's what moves the needle for him.
Yeah.
And listen, everybody out there, it ain't always about money. So it's about fit, it's about timing, and it's about when you got the shot and you know that you can be successful with it, boom, you shoot it and you go and you attack it all gas, no brakes. I think with him staying one more year, having 3 years of being 11-2 or better, right? Better probably this next year, like, the man will have opportunities at some big time. I mean, and again, Michigan State's a big time program, but for me, you're in the absolutely worst scenario. A lot of turmoil, don't know who you really got on staff, and you're in the Big Ten East. Bad move. Everybody that has been a Buckeye that stayed in the Big Ten East, a.k.a. Rutgers, right, beat down.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm going to go do something and make a run, I want to go to the Big Ten West in one of those programs. Or I want to completely get out of – I don't want to go to the SEC. I want to go to the Big 12 or the Pac-12 because I know I can recruit. And you have that Ohio ties. So let's say something happens and he's in Texas. I don't know, maybe in the near future, or a program like that, or a USC. Like, I can recruit. I know exactly what I got. I know the brand. Hey, I got a long-term contract. All my guys are taken care of, right?
Yeah.
That's a better opportunity for me and my family.
Yeah, what's interesting is there was that rumor going around that when USC hired Cincinnati's athletic director, that Luke may not be far behind,
Right.
and yet they decided to stay with Clay Helton. I think the recruiting rankings, the interesting thing is, I think UC Cincinnati might have out-recruited USC.
I know that for a fact.
And you're going.
Matter of fact, I don't know that for a fact.
But you know what I'm saying.
But I'm pretty daggum sure.
But it's close. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And you're going, boy, there's something special going on here, And
well, why? But think about it. Why is it special?
Yeah.
It's because of the relationship and the people.
Family.
That's it, man. If you come in there and you watch how Brady and his staff trains their dudes, like, kids, if you're like me, you're like, man, I want to train with that guy.
Yeah.
That guy's going to make me better.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to meeting with Marcus Freeman and the coaching staff. Like, this guy's going to make me better. And I see Luke Fickell, like this guy's going to be looking out for my best interest as a man. Like, I want that man taking care of my kid, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's why.
Yeah.
And so then I'm going to uproot all that, and now I'm going to go into a season without even my class. Makes no sense.
Yeah.
So he'll have a better opportunity moving forward. And I think it just gives Marcus another year of growth to say, listen, I've been here for the 3 years that we were, winning a lot of games. Like, I should be the next guy. And it gives him a great opportunity to step in and fill that gap. And Mick and Fick is always thinking about that. He is a very selfless person. He's a tough cat, but he's very selfless. And so I think he understands a bigger picture as, how can I set up some of my guys for success? Should I take something else? Who would stay? Right? And if I took that Michigan State job and I didn't have all those other pieces of the puzzle working together, like I could bring this guy, they're locked in. That'd be a lot of, a big buyout. He's probably not leaving right now in February. How am I going to put my staff together? And now you have all that turmoil going on of putting your staff. So he's like, nope, bad timing, bad situation. My family's good. My staff's good. I like where we're heading. Boom, go Cats.
Yeah. And he's been through the experience of a bad situation, because when he was named the interim coach here in 2011, that lost all of his stars, etc. Some of his top 5 or 7
dude's coaching
guys.
With one hand behind his back.
Right. He stuck with the staff that maybe he wouldn't have had. He wouldn't have kept around a lot of those guys.
Well, here's the thing, too. People don't realize of what Tress did in that offensive room, right?
Yeah.
Like Tress really moved a lot of pieces and helped a lot of people.
He was the hub of the spokes.
Yes, and then so you eliminate the hub, like who's doing that? And then Fick being a defensive guy, like, I can't help you. Like, you got to figure this out. And then my best dudes are gone, and you know what I mean? And then so it's like, it's one of those situations where he did such a phenomenal job. It helped set him up for when Coach Meyer came in and took over.
Right.
He stayed here. He grew. He learned. He turned down some opportunities, and I think he got the best opportunity and situation he could ask for in the University of Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, he's just taken it and ran because of the type of man that he is.
And one quickie. I mean, like you said, I thought he got judged unfairly of being a head coach in that 2011.
Well, who judged him?
Exactly.
People that I don't care about.
Bottom line is,
I know him.
People always look finally. No matter what a great guy you are, they look at that 6 and 7. I mean, that's what stands out. But here's Luke Fickell, my best friend, one of my best friends. Dom Taberry suffered the loss of one of his daughters in a tragic accident, and I'm sitting there. Went over to his house several times. It was a tough thing, and all of a sudden, about 3 days later, they're having a little get together at his house, and who shows up on a Friday night before an Ohio State home game on Saturday was Luke Fickell.
Yep.
And next thing you know, my buddy Dom and Luke are talking about the old wrestling days and stuff like that. And for the first time all week, Dom Taberry was smiling and laughing a little. We were all getting into it. But that's the kind of man, when I judge, I know firsthand that Luke Fickell is a hell of a guy. Forget about being a football coach. He's a hell of a guy. And sometimes you make decisions, like you said, for what's good for all of you, not just you. And I think that's exactly what he's done in this case.
Yeah, he's a phenomenal guy. You know, again, know yourself, right? Like if me, it's faith, it's family, and maximizing people. I didn't say company. I didn't say if I'm gonna maximize people, it's just what I do.
Yeah.
Right. And then you go look at like coaching. Is he a good dude? My prerequisites for me coaching for somebody. Is he a good dude? Does he know ball and can he recruit? Yeah. There's a lot of dudes that know ball and can recruit that aren't a good dude.
Yeah.
And guess what? You can't work with him. You can't be around him. You're not going to move my family for him. But Fick is a guy, good dude, knows ball, can recruit, man. Yeah. He's got them all. And it's just, that's a great testimony to the type of person and character that is Luke Fickell and why they love him in Cincinnati and why his guys love being with him. And I guarantee you, here's the cool thing about Fick. He will have a lot of continuity, too, in his staff. But he's also not afraid to, if there's somebody better, I'm going to go get it. Or I'm going to maximize you.
Oh, yeah.
To go be that.
You got to do that.
But he's always in with his people, making them better. Like, he never loses sight. I'm making my guys better. I'm making my coaches better. And I still want to be able to go home, be a husband, be a father. And he's elite at that, too.
Hey, Anthony, it's always a pleasure.
Dude,
ladies and gentlemen, I got to tell
you,
this guy used to wear camouflage to the post-game interview room. I don't know if you remember this, but I'd walk by and I'd go like this, and I'd go, "Oh, sorry, I didn't see you there."
Yeah, I did. You did.
Yeah, but this is a guy who used to chase pigs through the piney woods of Texas and
with
wild pigs.
And a knife.
And
I never shot a pig, by the way.
Yeah,
I've only stabbed him.
No, yeah, a guy has to have his standards. But one of the great people I've ever met, and we appreciate you coming on.
Tim, appreciate it, man. Thanks.
We'll be back in a moment. I'm going to tell you a couple of anecdotes about getting to cover the Buster Douglas upset of Mike Tyson 30 years ago in Tokyo. We'll be right back. All right, we're back, ladies and gentlemen, and by the miracle of television now, I've got a new cohort here, Spencer Holbrook. Spencer, welcome to the show. You've been on a couple of times.
I think I have.
But I just kind of needed a sounding board, because I wanted to talk to the folks about 30 years ago this week. Buster Douglas went to Tokyo and upset Mike Tyson, a 42-1 favorite. Buster Douglas pulled the greatest upset in boxing history. Some people think it's the greatest upset in sports history. But I was privileged to get to go to that fight, Spencer.
I didn't see, Tim. One of the things, and I think a lot of people my age would kind of ask, the build up to the fight, things like that. I just kind of want to know. I didn't realize you had gone to the fight.
Yeah.
I didn't realize you were there. Before you get started on these anecdotes, what's the best thing you ate in Tokyo?
Well, that's the thing. In Tokyo, ladies and gentlemen, I lost about 10 pounds on that trip because there was hardly anything there I wanted to eat. This was before I discovered the true beauty of sushi. And by the way, I still don't eat raw fish. But as I've described Tokyo back then, it smelled like half-cooked fish. That's what the atmosphere smelled like in the city. And it was kind of strange, and I finally found this one sort of burger joint that had, I think it was soy burgers, but they still tasted fairly.
You eat that like 5 times?
Yeah, I eat there probably 3 times a day. Their French fries were A-OK and stuff, but it was a strange time. But the build-up to that fight was interesting because Buster was given no chance. The day before the fight, Donald Trump flew in with Evander Holyfield and Holyfield's people. Donald Trump, the future president of the United States, to announce the Holyfield-Tyson fight was going to be about 4 months later in Atlantic City. So, everybody was giving Buster short shrift, with the exception of me and maybe the people around Buster, because as I was there, I wrote a story the day of the fight, a column basically predicting that Buster was going to beat Mike Tyson, and I laid it all out, that was going to happen in the 8th round, and I laid out the fact that Buster was in the best shape of his career by far, and that Mike Tyson was in good shape, but he was distracted. There were a lot of stuff going on in Mike Tyson's life at that point, and so I just felt pretty, as like I said in the story, if Buster could stay away from the uppercut of Mike Tyson, he's got a hell of a shot of pulling this off.
It wasn't an easy thing to do, though.
No, but as the fight progressed, he beat up Mike Tyson. He actually beat him up. And then in the 8th round, as he said the other night when we had a little gala about this, he kind of started admiring his handiwork, dropped his guard there in one round, right near the end of the 8th round, and Mike Tyson throws an uppercut, knocks Buster down on the canvas, and Buster's laying there. He's not knocked out. He's punching the canvas because he's kind of upset at himself that he let himself step into that when in fact it didn't have to happen. And he got up on a long count, as we all know, because Don King tried to steal the fight afterwards based on that long count. But he got up. The 9th round was the greatest round of heavyweight boxing I've ever witnessed. And then in the 10th round, he knocked out Mike Tyson to the chagrin of Mike Tyson's stunned fans in Tokyo, because Mike Tyson was sort of a cult figure.
He was larger than life. He was larger than life.
Even though he was about this tall. He's about your size, height-wise. And that's what was interesting about it. But he was built to throw the uppercut. But to all those fans, it was interesting. They just witnessed the greatest upset in boxing history, but they weren't that happy about it. It's kind of like, as I said, it's kind of like Bowling Green coming here and beating Ohio State in front of a bunch of Ohio State fans. Probably there's not going to be a lot of cheering. Or App State beating Michigan way back when. Remember that?
You're there for the upset, and you'll never remember.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll never forget it. But here's the other thing about it. Every time there's a big upset, every time that story gets told, more people were there.
Yeah. Well, yeah. There were like 35,000 people there. But
now if you ask people in Tokyo, there were 3.4 million people there because everybody wants to say they were there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And the interesting thing, too, is after the fight, after all the press conferences and everything, I'm sitting there in the middle of the Tokyo Dome, which is about twice as big a building as this indoor facility here, and sitting there ringside, and I'm writing some stories, and I look up there. I felt his presence. I look up. There's a Japanese TV reporter who I had met along the way when I was there, because I did a lot of interviews then because nobody knew who Buster was, over there. And as I looked up at him, he goes like this. He starts going, he goes, "You're Tim May. You picked Douglas. You pick Winter." And he reached in his pocket, he pulled out a card, and he goes, "Later, we drink." And he slammed his card down in front of me on the table. I said, "Hey, man, I appreciate it, but I got stories right here. I'm on deadline." And he goes, oh, so sorry. And he walked off. But that was cool. But what was really cool was about 3 weeks later, there was this big bidding war going on to try to get the Douglas Holyfield fight. And it was going on between, the Donald Trump people, Don King people, Bob Arum, all these folks, and the Mirage Hotel in Las Vegas had just opened like a couple of months earlier. The one with the big volcano in front. And
I've never been to Vegas, but I know what you're talking about.
So anyway, I flew out there with Buster and his manager John Johnson, his trainer J.D. McCauley, and Mirage became ground zero for all these people. George Foreman was walking around. All these people were trying to make inroads into getting the next Buster Douglas fight. And as you know, the Mirage finally ended up winning. But it was really funny. I've never told this anecdote, and I have to leave words out of it. I hardly tell this in public because it's hard to do without cursing. But where I'm sitting there in the bungalow of the Mirage Hotel, the bungalows are where Steve Wynn, who ran the Mirage Hotel then, that's where most of the stars who would show, his big shows like Siegfried and Roy and all those Dolly Parton, all these big stars that were big back then. This is where they would stay back in these bungalows. And that's where he put John Johnson. And so I'm sitting back there with a guy named Ian Thompson from a newspaper called The National back then, a short-lived all sports daily that was a great idea, but they just physically they couldn't make it happen, and they finally ended up folding. But it was a pretty cool thing. It was kind of like The Athletic now, except it was a print edition. And but anyway, we're sitting there, and all of a sudden there's a knock at the door, and John Johnson goes up to the door, and he answers the door, and it's Don King. And Don King just comes walking in with like 3 of his, I call him henchmen, with him and stuff. And this bungalow was a lower level where the TV was, an upper level where a kitchenette was, and a little dining table with 4 chairs around it. Well, Don King, John Johnson, J.D. McCauley, and this other guy, I can't remember who that was, sat at this table. And they started talking because Don King, John Johnson and Buster wanted nothing to do with Don King because he had tried to steal the fight away. And so they get up there and they start talking. And John finally kind of like lays the law down to him. He goes, Don, we're just not interested. We're not going with you. We're going another direction. And Don King starts screaming, you are not going to cut me out. And he slams his fist on the table and just starts screaming, you are not going to cut me out. Blankety blank. I was with Buster Douglas when nobody else cared a woot about Buster Douglas, except he didn't say woot, and just kept going on and on, was just screaming. It was screaming so loud, it was literally almost bringing tears to my eyes. I mean, me and Ian Thompson were sitting there going, this is really happening right here in front of us. Well, they all 4 had a soft drink in front of them, and I think Don King had a Sprite sitting in front of him, and he's just cussing and screaming and stuff, and he reaches and he takes a sip of his Sprite, and he says something else. All of a sudden he goes, burp, like that. And he looks around the room and he goes, excuse me.
And then just keeps yelling.
And then keeps going, And I just went, man, you think behind the scenes there's all this like whatever going on. It's just like it was crazy.
It's kind of crazy to me that you're able to tell these stories and a who's who of boxing.
Yeah.
And in that list, Don King and Mike Tyson, you said Evander Holyfield, Buster Douglas, and then all of a sudden, oh, by the way, President Trump flew in before he was anything.
Well, he wasn't President Trump then.
Before he was the president.
He was Donald Trump.
And everybody, real estate mogul and everybody who's involved in that.
It was crazy times,
extended circle of this boxing history that you were there to tell. It's pretty interesting to me.
It was crazy times because after that confrontation with John Johnson, he walked around and he walked into the bedroom part and he picked up his phone to call somebody and he lit up a cigarette and he turned around and he looked at me and he winked because he had Don King finally right where he wanted him. And very few people in life have ever been able to say that. So thank you for letting me tell that little story, man. And I really enjoy doing these podcasts. I really appreciated Anthony Schlegel coming on with me today.
This is a nice thing. If you're a college program watching this,
this is how much football has changed. Go from these really sophisticated kind of machines to all of a sudden this is just a simplistic design, but it's just the art of football now is getting that first blow. You're an offensive lineman.
Am I hitting it correctly?
Getting that first blow. You're a defensive lineman, knocking somebody's arm off.
I'm going to have to get Schlegs to watch this, see if I'm doing it correctly.
Yeah, so anyway, I really appreciate Schlegel. Mainly what I appreciated was a little insight in what goes on in the offseason program, what are sort of the goals, the direction you want to take with the different levels of players, from incoming freshmen to fifth-year seniors. It's funny because everybody has something they can get better at, but it's up to Mickey Marotti and his staff to figure all that out and keep everybody on an upward plane. But you know what? I really enjoyed this. And until next week, this is Tim May with the Tim May Podcast. Appreciate Spencer Holbrook being with me. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe below to get the latest videos from Lettermen Row.
We got Letterman Live. We've got the practice report. We got rapid reaction. Hey, and we got Buckeye IQ with Zach Bourne.
For sure. We got recruiting breakdowns with Berm. We got whatever you need. Ohio State football and Ohio State athletics. We've got you covered here at Lettermen Row.